What if you found something that, after consuming it, made your mind so sharp that you could learn any skill or task in the world within minutes and become the most intelligent person on the planet? This is exactly what happens to the hero of our story today, and we'll explore this throughout the story. The story begins with a guy named Eddie, who wants to be a writer. After waiting a long time, he finally gets a small assignment to write a book from a publisher, but he hasn't been able to write a single word of it yet. Every day he writes a little and then erases it, because he's so confused and frustrated about his future. Because of these failures, one day his girlfriend, Lindy, also breaks up with him and leaves. Eddie had been married before to a girl named Melissa, but due to his laziness and lack of success, she also left him. Feeling defeated and worn out by life, Eddie is walking through the city to get back to his apartment when he runs into Vernon, his ex-wife's brother. They sit down at a cafe and start talking, and Eddie tells Vernon all about his struggles and confusion. Realizing Eddie's distress, Vernon decides to help him and hands him a pill. Eddie laughs, thinking, "How is this tiny pill supposed to help me?" But Vernon explains that it's not an ordinary pill. As soon as he takes it, Eddie's confusion will disappear, and he'll be able to work with extraordinary focus. He gives Eddie his business card so they can stay in contact. Desperate to change his miserable life, Eddie takes the pill, before even reaching his apartment. Right on the stairs to his apartment, he runs into his landlady, who angrily reminds him that he hasn't paid his rent. Still dazed by the pill, Eddie doesn't understand what's happening at first. But suddenly, the pill kicks in, and Eddie sees everything with total clarity. His memory improves to the point where he can recall everything he's ever read. Seeing a law book in his landlady's bag, he tells her that he wouldn't study that book if he were taking an exam. He suggests better books she should read instead and shares detailed legal knowledge, impressing her so much with his intelligence that she lets him go without paying rent. After entering his room, Eddie looks at the mess around him and wonders how he could live like that. He quickly tidies everything up, and in this scene, we see multiple versions of Eddie cleaning together, symbolizing that his mind is now working as fast as 10 people combined. Then he sits down to write his book, and with no hesitation or confusion, he just keeps writing. The next morning, when Eddie wakes up, he feels normal again, as the effects of the pill have worn off. But he's stunned to find that he wrote an entire book overnight. Wasting no time, he submits the manuscript to the editor, who is amazed at how quickly he finished. When Eddie gets back home, he finds a voicemail from the editor, praising his writing and offering him more work, which makes Eddie very happy. He goes to meet Vernon again and compliments the pill. Vernon tells him that the pill is a drug called NGT, designed to activate 100% of the brain, allowing one to use their mind to its full potential. Eddie asks for more pills, but Vernon says that first, Eddie should pick up his suit and a burger from the market. When Eddie returns with the burger and suit, he finds Vernon has been shot and killed. Terrified, Eddie quickly calls the police, but before they arrive, he searches the entire apartment, suspecting that someone killed Vernon for the pills. After a thorough search, he finds a whole packet of the pills, a bundle of cash, and a small notebook, which he takes. When the police arrive, they interrogate Eddie, but he doesn't reveal much about the murder, so they let him go. Returning home, Eddie takes another pill, and this time, he's determined to change his life for the better. In just 4 days, he writes another book and submits it to the editor. He also starts learning many new skills, like speaking new languages, playing cards, focusing on fitness, and socializing. He meets a stockbroker named Kevin, who gives him his business card. He makes new friends, who invite him to a beach party, where he has a great time. Suddenly, Eddie realizes that his main goal might not be writing. Instead, he could make more money in the stock market. After a week of research, he masters stock market patterns and invests the $800 Vernon left him, turning it into $2,000 in a single day. Over the next few days, Eddie makes a fortune in the stock market. But now that Eddie has such a good understanding of the stock market, he decides to try his luck with a larger amount. He meets a Russian man named Jerry, who lends him $100,000 with a warning that he'd skin Eddie alive if he didn't repay him on time. Eddie invests all of it and, using his sharp mind, makes $2 million in just 1 week. He becomes famous in the stock market, and people start talking about him everywhere. One day, Eddie meets his ex-girlfriend, Lindy, who's impressed by his transformation, and they get back together, sharing many beautiful moments. But one day, Eddie notices a man following them. Ignoring him, Eddie takes Lindy away. The next day, Kevin introduces Eddie to Carl, a prominent businessman, who's impressed by Eddie's ideas about the stock market and business. Carl gives him a ride home and hands him some files, which Eddie reviews and gives solutions for. Impressed by his intelligence, Carl invites him to meet again. Eddie gets off along the way and continues walking, but suddenly feels strange. It turns out this is a side effect of the NGT pill, which causes Eddie to feel disoriented. Over the next 18 hours, he finds himself in several different places, a club, a party, with a girl, and then on a bridge. He fights off some thugs, mimicking Jackie Chan's moves he's seen on TV. Finally, he finds himself on a highway bridge after 18 hours, not remembering anything that happened. When Eddie wakes up, he reviews Carl's files without taking the pill, trying to avoid a repeat of his recent experience. But without the pill, he can't focus, so he goes to meet Carl, who discusses business with him. Eddie, however, struggles to keep up because he's in his normal mental state. Watching the news, he realizes the girl he was with was found dead in a hotel, and he worries that he might have killed her. He excuses himself and leaves. When Eddie gets home, he feels sick from not taking the pill for so long, but he decides he must learn more about the drug. He calls the contacts listed in Vernon's notebook and learns that many of the people who took this drug have died. He calls the last remaining person, who turns out to be the man who's been following him. Eddie escapes him and runs into his ex-wife, Melissa, who tells him she also used to take the NGT pills. She warns him of the drug's dangers and urges him to quit, though she admits that giving it up is very difficult. Meanwhile, Jerry, the Russian loan shark, confronts Eddie for repayment, but after taking a pill, he suddenly feels great and leaves Eddie alone. But Eddie's health continues to deteriorate. Desperate, he seeks help from Lindy and confesses everything about the drug. He asks her to get the pills from his home. On her way back, she's pursued by the man following Eddie. Eddie guides her over the phone, telling her to take a pill. After taking it, Lindy easily outsmarts her pursuer and safely returns to Eddie, giving him a pill that revives him. Lindy insists he quit the drug, but Eddie says he still needs time to accomplish some things. Lindy agrees, giving him the space to gradually reduce his dosage and quit. Eddie carefully monitors his use, learning to avoid alcohol and eat on time to minimize side effects. He has a special coat made with a secret pocket to carry the pills and asks a chemist to replicate the pill without side effects, offering a generous payment. Meanwhile, he collaborates with Carl on a massive business merger. But Eddie realizes that Carl's associate, Hank, is also using NGT pills, and they've been tracking him for his supply. Eddie avoids them and keeps working on new ideas and ventures, eventually becoming a millionaire. He even manages to avoid police suspicion about the dead girl through his lawyer's clever maneuvering. By the end of the story, Eddie has established himself as a successful businessman. He's learned to use the drug responsibly, but he's also taken steps to produce a safer version. He's gained the fame, fortune, and intelligence he once dreamed of, though his journey was fraught with danger.